Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we sift through articles, research, and notes to bring you the most potent insights tailored just for you.
Glad to be diving in.
Today, we're tackling something that feels really present right now.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding why these, well, sometimes outlandish ideas about secret plots and powerful manipulators really capture our imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't about judging beliefs, okay? It's more a journey to understand the complex psychology, the social forces, the history, maybe even how our own minds are kind of wired for this stuff.
Yeah, the wiring is key.
Our mission is to unpack where these theories come from and why they stick around. Because, in this hyper-connected world, social media feels like a constant fire hose of information.
And misinformation, let's be honest.
Exactly. And it feels like these narratives are just everywhere, which definitely amps up the curiosity around them.
And that amplification is precisely where the research offers a really crucial distinction. You're right, we're exposed to way more alternative facts now, but the studies show that actually modern humans aren't necessarily more prone to believing untruths than, say, previous generations.
Oh, interesting.
What's different is our awareness of it all. That core human inclination you mentioned, that wiring to look for explanations, that seems pretty timeless. Technology's just given it a huge megaphone.
That's a powerful way to think about it.
Yeah.
A megaphone for timeless tendencies.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this term we hear all the time, conspiracy theory. What actually defines these narratives, according to the research? What makes a theory, conspiratorial?
It's a great question because the sources are clear. We're not just talking about delusions of paranoid minds.
Right, it's broader than that.
Much broader. I mean, recent polls show over half of Americans believe in at least one conspiracy theory.
Wow, 50%.
Yeah. So to understand them, the research points to three common characteristics. First, they blame unusual social or political stuff on unseen, intentional, and usually malevolent forces. It's never just chance or incompetence, Rosa.
There's always a hidden hand.
Always. Second, they often frame political events as this, dramatic struggle, good versus evil. A really clear, almost mythological narrative.
By the way, black and white.
Exactly. And third, they often suggest that mainstream news, the stuff we watch and read, it's actually a carefully crafted trick, a ruse to distract us from who really holds the power.
So a fundamental distrust of established sources.
Precisely. It flips trust on its head.
Those characteristics really, they really hit home. Maybe we could look at some specific examples. I know one source, a University of Chicago study, had some numbers. What kind of beliefs exemplify these points?
Absolutely. And the numbers are pretty striking. For instance, 19% of Americans believe the government was actually behind the 9/11 attacks.
19%.
Yeah. And digging further, 25% believe the 2008 recession wasn't just market forces, but was caused by a small, secret group of Wall Street bankers.
A cabal, basically.
Right. And then you get the more, peculiar ones, like 11% believing the government mandated that switch to compact fluorescent light bulbs.
The swirly ones.
Those ones, because, quote, they make people obedient and easier to control.
Okay, that one's
Yeah.
there. But it shows how even mundane things can get swept up.
It really does. These aren't just fringe ideas. They resonate with significant chunks of the population.
Makes you look twice at your smart thermostat, doesn't it? But seriously, what about the global picture? Our sources touched on this. Is this mainly an American thing, or is it wider?
Oh, it's definitely not just American. The studies actually point out that Americans aren't necessarily more likely to be conspiracy theorists than people elsewhere.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, you often see a higher risk in countries dealing with a lot of political strife or bad economic conditions, limited resources. That kind of instability seems to breed suspicion.
So circumstance plays a big role.
A huge role. Well, Western societies like the U.S. have the tech for rapid spread of information and disinformation. That doesn't mean people there have a higher inherent tendency to believe. It suggests it's more about universal human psychology shaped by the environment.
That's a really important distinction. And while lots of these theories do seem to swirl around big political players, powerful groups acting in secret, right?
That's common.
Not all of them are explicitly political. Like the idea the moon landing was faked, that doesn't directly involve politicians in the usual sense.
Right, but it still involves people in power. NASA, the government indirectly engaging in massive deception.
Yeah.
It's still about a hidden truth being kept from the public. The core element is there.
Okay, so if it's not just modern, not just Western, but something more universal, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's dig into the deeper origins, the motivations. What's the fundamental why behind this impulse?
Well, the research suggests these beliefs have incredibly deep roots, like tracking conspiracy thinking all the way back to early human civilizations.
Wow, that far back.
Yeah, think about it. If you lived in a small, tight-knit community thousands of years ago, being super vigilant about potential threats from outside groups or even hidden agendas within your group, and that was probably a good survival strategy.
An adaptive trait.
Exactly. It helped groups protect themselves. Now, obviously, our societies are way more complex and integrated today, but that primal suspicion, that feeling that it's all an inside job or that hidden forces are manipulating things, it seems to persist. It's almost baked into our psychology from an evolutionary standpoint.
That connects it so profoundly to our past. But it also sounds incredibly complex, not just one simple switch. I remember reading about an American Psychological Association review by Shauna Bowes. Look at tons of studies, right?
That's right, a huge umbrella review, 52 different variables across hundreds of studies.
And what did that tell us about the complexity?
It basically showed that belief in conspiracies is extremely complex. You can't pin it on just one thing. Dr. Bowes noted, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, that the vast majority of these different factors were significantly related. It suggests lots of different personality traits, lots of different motivations all feed into it.
So no single conspiracy theorist profile.
Not really. It's more like a tapestry woven from many different threads.
Okay, but while it's complex, did the research find any personality traits that seem to pop up more consistently? Any stronger associations?
Yes, definitely. Some tendencies show up more often, like a tendency to perceive threat and danger more readily than others.
Seeing threats everywhere.
Sort of.
Oh.
Also, having what might be called odd beliefs or experiences things that deviate a bit from the norm, a strong reliance on intuition, trusting your gut over, say, hard evidence.
Gut feelings rule.
Sometimes, yeah. And also, perhaps surprisingly, traits like being antagonistic or having a sense of superiority.
Superiority. How does that fit?
Maybe feeling like you see the real truth that others miss. These aren't bad traits on their own, of course, but in combination, they can sort of predispose someone towards finding conspiratorial explanations appealing.
Right, if you're always scanning for threats and trust your intuition.
Then a theory offering a hidden explanation might feel very plausible, very coherent.
And that's exactly why these theories can be so captivating, right? They act as a frame of interpretation. They offer structure, often simple explanations, for things that feel confusing, emotional, or ambiguous, especially if the official story seems lacking.
Precisely. They bring a sense of order to perceived chaos. They can essentially confirm what people want to believe anyway.
It fills a need for explanation.
Exactly. And often these narratives rely on what researchers call Manichaean narratives. Think clear good versus clear evil.
Like in myths or some religious texts.
Very similar. It frames events as this dramatic struggle, simplifying everything into an us versus them battle. That's incredibly powerful and resonates emotionally.
It simplifies a complex world.
It absolutely does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of how our minds actually work, a key psychological phenomenon here is something called motivated reasoning.
Motivated reasoning. Okay, tell us about that.
It's not just about the information coming in, it's about how our minds actively process that information through a pre-existing lens. Our existing beliefs shape how we see new evidence.
So it's like our prior beliefs and attitudes act as an anchor when we evaluate new stuff.
That's a perfect way to put it. They anchor the evaluation. And there's this constant internal tug of war, right? Between wanting to be accurate
Yeah, wanting the truth.
and wanting to reach a conclusion that just feels right, that confirms what we already think or feel, especially with emotionally charged topics or partisan issues.
So that desire to confirm what we believe can often overwhelm the desire for pure accuracy.
It can, yes, far more often than we probably realize. The research actually breaks down motivated reasoning into 3 distinct processes that make this happen.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's confirmation bias. We all kind of do this. It's our tendency to actively seek out info that confirms what we already believe.
And ignore stuff that doesn't fit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We subtly, or maybe not so subtly, avoid or dismiss challenging information. We're basically curating our own little echo chamber.
Right. What's the second one?
That's disconfirmation bias. This isn't just ignoring contradictory stuff. It's actively working harder to tear it down, spending more time, more mental energy, finding flaws in opposing arguments.
Oh, we become better lawyers for our own side.
Pretty much. We don't just see a different view. We see an argument that needs defeating. And third, there's attitude congruence bias.
Okay.
This means If you already hold a strong position on something, you tend to see arguments supporting your view as inherently stronger and more convincing than arguments opposing it, even if the evidence is objectively similar.
Wow. So it's like a self-reinforcing loop.
It really is. It makes it hard to objectively weigh evidence once you have a stake in the outcome.
It's amazing how our minds work to protect our viewpoints. The research also mentioned something called the motivational view. Can you unpack that a bit? How does that explain why certain conclusions just feel more right?
Yeah, the motivational view suggests we draw these self-serving conclusions not necessarily because we're consciously trying to fool ourselves.
It's not deliberate manipulation.
Not always, no. It's more that certain conclusions just seem more plausible because they fit so neatly with our existing beliefs and expectations. It's largely unconscious. Our mental frameworks make certain interpretations feel inherently correct.
So it's like a selective perception of reality, guided by what we already believe.
Exactly. And what's really notable, even a bit paradoxical, is that this effect, this motivated reasoning, it's often stronger for highly engaged, knowledgeable individuals.
Wait, stronger for people who know more. How does that work?
Well, the more information you have about a topic within your preferred viewpoint, of course, the more ammunition you have to argue against conflicting information, or the better you become at avoiding it altogether. Expertise can sometimes just solidify the biases.
That's fascinating and kind of counterintuitive. So, okay, knowing all this complex psychology, let's shift to the practical side. For you, the listener, how do we navigate this? How do we approach conversations or even just understand our own thinking when faced with these deeply held beliefs? That clinical relevance section in the sources was interesting.
It's a really important point because, look, believing in conspiracies isn't classified as a psychological condition itself.
Right, it's not a diagnosis.
No. But the research suggests clinicians can learn from how they approach patients with, say, psychotic disorders where firmly held, unusual beliefs are common. And the absolute key is not to start by saying, "You're wrong. That's not real."
Why not? Seems direct.
Because for the person holding that belief, the feeling, the experience of it is intensely real. Dismissing it out of hand just shuts down the conversation, it isolates them, and frankly, it just doesn't work to change their mind. It backfires.
Okay, that makes sense. So instead of confrontation, the recommendation is what? Curiosity? Lack of judgment?
Exactly that. Approach with genuine curiosity without judging the belief itself. The key is to validate the emotional experience behind the belief, even if you don't agree with the belief's content.
Validate the feeling, not the fact. How might that actually sound? Can you give an example?
Sure, instead of debating the evidence, you could try saying something like, "Wow, that must be a really frightening thought to live with. How does that affect you day to day?"
Focusing on the impact.
Or, "It sounds like you feel very strongly about this. What is it that makes you so certain?" It shows you're listening to them and their experience, not just their argument. It validates their feelings, opens a door for connection, rather than just slamming it shut with a debate.
It shifts from argument to understanding.
Precisely. It's a subtle but potentially powerful shift.
So this naturally leads to the next question then. How susceptible are we? Us, the listeners, ourselves. The sources are clear that not all theories are the same. Some sound totally wild, like, wasn't there something about sinister sculptures at the Denver airport?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic one. Denver Airport has a whole mythology around it.
Right. And then there are others that feel, well, much more plausible to a lot more people. Like the widespread idea that Jeffrey Epstein didn't actually kill himself. That one has persisted.
It absolutely has. And that highlights the spectrum of plausibility, doesn't it? It's vast.
Yeah.
And here's the real kicker, the point the research really hammers home.
What's that?
Every one of us has a slight susceptibility to thinking something is right that probably isn't. Every single one of us.
A slight susceptibility.
Maybe more than slight sometimes. It goes on to say, essentially, that all of us kind of believe in at least one conspiracy theory, even if we don't label it that way.
Wow. So it's not just other people.
Absolutely not. It's a deeply human trait. And understanding that about ourselves, acknowledging our own inherent susceptibility, that might be one of the most crucial takeaways from this whole deep dive. It requires some humility.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the journey we've taken today. We looked at how common these theories are, their core characteristics.
The hidden hands, good versus evil, the media ruse.
Right. We dug into the deep evolutionary roots, the psychological complexity.
And that big review showing it's not just one factor, but many personality traits and motivations woven together.
And then we unpacked motivated reasoning, confirmation bias, disconfirmation bias, how our beliefs shape what we even see as plausible.
And how that affects everyone, even knowledgeable people.
It really highlights the sheer complexity, doesn't it? Why these beliefs take hold and why they persist.
Absolutely. And I think recognizing our own human tendencies, to spot threats, maybe jump to conclusions, definitely to confirm what we already think, recognizing that is just crucial, not just for understanding others, but for navigating this information landscape ourselves.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to maybe mull over. The sources show conspiracy theories have been with us throughout history, right? From early survival instincts to modern motivated reasoning. Given that inherent human wiring, seeing threats, confirming beliefs, and given how information complexity and technology are just exploding, how might our collective susceptibility to new kinds of hidden agendas evolve?
That's a big question.
It is. And maybe more personally, what responsibility do we each have to actively push past our own confirmation bias? To seek out information that challenges us in an effort to understand the world and maybe even ourselves just a little bit better.
A vital question for our times.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into why we fall for conspiracy theories. We really hope it's given you some valuable insights to ponder.